We're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts, grade 8, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to our chapter of restrictive and non-restrictive elements. All right. So our chapter is restrictive and non-restrictive elements. Our subject is English language arts, grade 8. And the lessons that we're going to be focusing on is what does the punctuation suggest? All right. So we have restrictive, right? And we have non-restrictive elements. So we have restrictive and non-restrictive elements. And a restrictive element, so a restrictive element within a sentence, it is necessary in order for a reader to identify exactly who or what is being discussed. So a restrictive element within a sentence is important or it's necessary basically in order for us to exactly know or to identify exactly who or what is being discussed. And when it comes to restrictive information, right, it is not set off with any commas. So as a restrictive element, right, it is necessary within a sentence so that we can identify exactly who or what is being discussed. And it is not set off by any or set off with commas. For example, right? So, for example, the teacher who is retiring is being honored with an award on Friday. So, basically, who are we discussing or what is being discussed, right? It is the teacher, right? Who is retiring and she is being honored with an award on Friday. So, no need. So basically, no need for us to even have any commas because we specifically know that we're specifically talking about the teacher who is being retired, and she's the one that's going to be honored with an award on Friday. So which means that the teacher who is being honored is the one who is retiring. So that is why this word, let's say the underlined restrictive clause, which is who is retiring, helps the reader to identify which teacher is being honored. So now we're asking ourselves which teacher is being honored. Instead of just saying the teacher is being honored, we are specifically saying the teacher who is retiring is being honored. So now we specifically know who is being awarded. Sorry. So, like I say, instead of just saying the teacher is being honored with an award on Friday, right? So now we don't know which teacher we're talking about, but they are specifying by saying that the teacher who is retiring is being honored with an award on Friday. So now at least we have an idea exactly who is being discussed or what is being discussed within that sentence. And they're discussing the teacher who is retiring. They're going to be awarding the teacher who is retiring. Because if we just say, for example, the teacher is being honored with an award on Friday, right? Without a restrictive clause over here, we won't be able to identify who the teacher is that they are talking about. Because remember, if you at the school, if you guys have like, if there's, let's say, about 20 teachers, right? And they're just saying the teacher is being honored with an award on Friday. And then we won't really know which teacher is being honored. But when it comes to the restrictive elements, right, it makes it so easy, or it is basically necessary to identify exactly who or what is being discussed. And it is not even set off within a commas. And that is why, like we say, with this sentence, it says the teacher who is retiring. So now at least we know, we can identify, and we have an idea as to who is being honored with an award, because we know it's the one who is retiring, right? But if we just say the teacher is being honored with an award, then we won't know as a reader. The reader doesn't know which teacher is being honored over here. Then we have non-restrictive elements, right? Non-restrictive elements. And a non-restrictive element, it provides information that is supplemental, right? So that is non-restrictive elements. So it provides information that is supplemental, and it is not necessary in order for the reader to identify who or what is being discussed, right? So a non-restrictive element provides information that is supplemental, and it is not necessary in order for the reader to identify who or what is being discussed. And when it comes to a non-restrictive elements, right, non-restrictive information is always set off with commas. Always. For example, the Golden Gate Bridge, comma, which first opened in 1937, comma, took over 4 years to build, right? So which means that the Golden Gate Bridge, which first opened in 1937, took over 4 years to build. So which means that if we look at the word took over, if we look at the sentence that says took over 4 years to build, right? We don't actually need that information. Like that information is not even required because if they say that the Golden Gate Bridge, which was first opened in 1937, right? Or we can even say the Golden Bridge, let's say it took over 4 years to build. You don't even have to say how long it took to build, right? Because we just know what's important is that it opened in 1937 or it's the Golden Gate Bridge, right? Or in order for us to, for example, say we can remove which was first opened in 1937, we can then maybe just say the Golden Gate Bridge took over 4 years to build without even having to worry when it was first opened. And then again, when it comes to the non restrictive elements, right, we see that it provides information that is supplemental, right? And we said it is not necessary in order for the reader to identify who or what is being discussed. Literally the total opposite of a restrictive element. And with when it comes to non-restrictive elements, right, without the information, right, that is given, a reader still knows which bridge took over 4 years to build, which is the Golden Gate Bridge. And we say that when a non-restrictive element, it is set off with commas. So you need to use commas when it comes to the non-restrictive element. However, as you are writing, you need to be sure to use commas correctly to indicate whether the information is restrictive or whether the information is non-restrictive. All right. And now if we look at an example of restrictive as well as non-restrictive elements, right? When it comes to restrictive elements, Ethan's sister Julie has recently started working for a new company in Toronto. So Ethan's sister Julie has recently started working for a new company in Toronto. So we said Ethan's sister Julie has recently started working for a new company in Toronto. And if Ethan has more than one sister, right? If he's got more than one sister, then do not use commas around Julie. Then the name Julie is required in order for a reader to identify which of his sisters is being discussed. Because if he's got three sisters, which is Julie, May, as well as Casey or Cassie, right? And we specifically want to make mention of Julie that got a new job in Toronto, then we need to specify and we need to specifically mention Julie. All right. And then we have non restrictive elements, right? And we said, remember, non restrictive elements, we need to use commas, all right? Or it's set off with commas. For example, Ethan's sister, Julie, has recently started working for a new company in Toronto. And if Ethan has only one sister, we use commas around Julie. The name Julie is not even needed in order for a reader to identify who is being discussed. Because then we could have just said his sister. If he only had one sister, we could have just said Ethan's sister has started a new job in Toronto. But if he's got more than one sister, we need to say that Ethan's sister, Julie, has started a job in Toronto. All right. So when it comes to restrictive elements, right? With restrictive elements, we basically need to identify who or what is being discussed. And it is not set off with any commas. And then when it comes to non-restrictive elements, right, it is not necessarily to know who or what is being discussed, but we need to show or use commas within our sentences. And we are doing our tutorial lesson on aplusstudents.ca, right? So we're going to aplusstudents.ca. And we said our chapter is restrictive and non-restrictive elements. And we're going to the lesson that says, what does the punctuation suggest? All right. So we say the restrictive element in a sentence is necessary in order for the reader to identify exactly who or what is being discussed, right? And the restrictive element is not set off with any commas, meaning that you don't need to still use commas in order to either show or discuss who is being discussed. And then we have non-restrictive elements, right, in a sentence, which provides information that is supplemental to, and it is not necessary in order for a reader to identify who or what is being discussed. And a non-restrictive information is always set off with commas. So non-restrictive elements, always we need to use commas, and it is not important or not necessarily, it's not necessary in order for the reader to identify who or what is being discussed. Whereas with the restrictive element, right, it is not set off with a comma, but it is necessary in order for a reader to identify exactly who or what is being discussed. All right. So now if we look at our activities, right, it says, what does the following sentence suggest? It says from 1901 until 1913, the environmental pioneer John Muir fought to keep the Hetchy Valley in California from being transformed into a reservoir. It was a battle he eventually lost. All right, so it says that from 1901 to 1913, the environmental pioneer John Muir fought to keep the Hetchy Valley in California from being transferred into a reservoir, and it was a battle he eventually lost. And it says the question is, what does the following sentence suggest? So basically, John Muir was one of several environmental pioneers, right? So he was one of the several environmental pioneers that basically fought to keep Hetchy Valley in California from being transferred, but eventually and sadly, he lost a battle. All right. It says, what does the following sentence suggest? It says, the exhibit that displays about 1,500,000, oh, only not thousand. The exhibit that displays about 1,500 dinosaur bones is a popular attraction at the Quarry Exhibit Hall in Dinosaur National Monument. So the exhibit that displays about 1,500 dinosaur bones in a popular attraction at the Currie Exhibit Hall in Dinosaur National Monument. So the exhibit that displays about 1,500 dinosaur bones is a popular attraction at the Currie Exhibit Hall in Dinosaur National Monument. And what does the following suggest? And this following sentencing suggests that there is more than one exhibit at the Quarry Exhibit Hall. So there is more than one exhibit at the Quarry Exhibit Hall. All right. So before we go to our test, it says, what does the following sentence suggest? The band's vocalist, Olivia Turner, wrote all the lyrics for the new album, which chronicles the experiences of her ancestors as they migrated from Europe to the United States. Right? So basically, the band's vocalist, Olivia Turner, which basically gives us the idea that there's only one vocalist within this band, which is Olivia Turner. And she's also a writer, the one who writes all of their songs, right? So now we're going to our test. So we need to say, what does the following sentence suggest? Mr. Mason continued his annual tradition of inviting friends over for 4th of July hootenanny at his vacation home, which is on the Russian River near Forestville. So we need to say what the following suggests. Is Mr. Mason has only one vacation home, or Mr. Mason has many vacation homes? So basically, we can then say Mr. Mason has only one vacation home because they specifically say which is on the Russian River near Forestville. So well done. The first one is correct. So well done. We need to say what the following sentence suggests. From 1901 until 1913, the environmental pioneer John Muir fought to keep the Hickey Valley in California from being transferred into a reservoir. It was a battle he sadly and eventually lost. Is it the sentence? What does the sentence suggest? Is it that John Muir was one of several environmental pioneers, or John Muir was the only environmental pioneer? Which one is correct? All right. So we said that John Muir was one of several environmental pioneers. So well done. Right? So what does the following sentence suggest? It says, put the cherries that are bruised or soft in this container. Shauna instructed her assistant in the kitchen. We can use them to make jam. So now we need to say what the following sentence suggests. Is it only some of the cherries are bruised or soft, or all of the cherries are bruised and soft? So if we need to say what the following suggests, then we can say only some of the cherries are bruised or soft. So well done. The first one is correct. Great job, guys. The first one is correct. Mr. Mason continued his annual tradition of inviting friends over for a 4th of July hootenanny at his vacation home, which is on the Russian River near Forestville. We need to say what the following sentence suggests. Does it say that Mr. Mason has more than one vacation home? Or does it say Mason has only one vacation home? He's got more than one vacation home, or he has one vacation home. So we need to say what that sentence suggests, and we can say that Mason has only one vacation home. So which means that we are choosing the second one. So well done. The second one is correct. Second one showing that Mr. Mason only has one vacation home. So well done. The band's vocalist, Olivia Turner, wrote all the lyrics for the new album, which chronicles the experience of her ancestors as they migrated from Europe to the United States. So the band's vocalist Olivia Turner wrote all the lyrics for the new song for the new album, which chronicles the experiences of her ancestors as they migrated from Europe to the United States. So we now need to say what it suggests, that the band has more than one vocalist, or it suggests that the band has only one vocalist. And if we must say what it suggests, right? And then we're going to say, we're going to choose the second one, yes, right? And the second one says the band only has one vocalist. So since you said it's also the second one, sorry, that is correct. So well done, great job. The second one is correct. So that is what it suggests. All right. It says that the exhibit that displays about 1,500 dinosaur bones in a popular attraction at the Quarry Exhibit Hall in Dinosaur National Monument. We need to choose which one is correct. Does it mean that there are more than one exhibit at the Quarry Exhibit Hall, or there's only one exhibit at the Quarry Exhibit Hall? So if we what we suggest, right, is there is more than one exhibit at the Curry Exhibit Hall. Or there's more, yeah, there's more than one exhibit at the Curry Exhibit Hall. So the first one is correct. So well done. The first one is correct. All right. All right. Now let's also go to. Oh, did where did it go to? Ah, the first one was to finish the test before we go to the final test. Hey, okay, it's gone out now. Didn't show us the final test. Okay, so once again, We said that we have restrictive now, we have a restrictive element and we have non-restrictive elements, right? And we said restrictive elements within a sentence, it is necessary in order for the reader to identify exactly who or what is being discussed, right? And when it comes to restrictive elements, right, restrictive information is not set off with commas. So you don't need to put commas in order to, for example, identify who or what is being discussed, right? But restrictive elements, right, in a sentence, it is necessary, it is important in order for a reader to identify exactly who is being discussed or what is being discussed, right? Then we have non-restrictive elements. And a non-restrictive element, it provides information that is supplemental. And it is not necessary for a non-restrictive element, so it's not necessary in order for a reader to identify who or what is being discussed. All right. So remember, we see that with a non-restrictive element, right? A non-restrictive element, it provides information that is supplemental. And with a non-restrictive element, especially compared to a restrictive element, a non-restrictive element, it is set off with commas, meaning that you need to use commas, and you also need to use the commas within its correct form. You need to specifically say where you need to show also where you put the commas, and you need to put the commas correctly within the sentence. So we see that non-restrictive element, it provides information that is supplemental. And when it comes to non-restrictive element, right, it is really not necessary in order for a reader to identify who is being discussed. And it's not necessary to basically identify what is being discussed within a sentence when it comes to the non-restrictive element. And we said with non-restrictive elements, it is always set off with commas. There's always commas, right? And you need to know where to put the commas. All right. And we made a few examples also of these activities, right? And when it comes to non-restrictive elements, an example of a non-restrictive element, it's like, for example, suggesting who is leaving, right? We need to be specific because in order for us to, for example, be specific, you need to, for example, say that if you are saying that the teacher who is retiring is being awarded, then we specifically want to know who is being awarded, right? It's not just any teacher, but the one who is retiring that is that is getting or that's going to be awarded, right? And that we call a restrictive element, right? It wants to or it is necessary to know who is the reader or what is the who is being discussed or what is being discussed. And then we also made an example of a restrictive as well as a non-restrictive element. All right. Um, I wanted to, let me just say something. It's not giving us that one. I wanted us to do the final test. You'll see once you complete the 10 questions in the test on restrictive and non-restrictive elements, it will take you to the final test, right? I thought I could do the final test with you, but clearly I went out of it. But anyways, this is now the end of our lesson on restrictive and non-restrictive elements. We said when it comes to restrictive elements, right, it is important to identify who or what is being discussed. And the restrictive elements, it's not necessary to basically show the commas, or it's not set off by commas. And then we have non-restrictive elements, right, where it is not necessary to show who or what is being discussed or who or what are they talking about, right? And it needs to be set off by a comma, which means that you need to properly place or put the commas in its place within the sentences. All right, so that is now the end of our lesson on restrictive and non-restrictive elements. Thank you very much, grade 8, for joining the class as well as for interacting. Till next time, have a good evening further. Goodbye.